Hey, thanks for coming by my YouTube site. It's Tori Magoo 44. It is June, and I'm going to do a series on Scientology's famous, infamous The Way to Happiness, which this is their Happy Holidays one that I had from Christmas. But they print out different ones, and they have different basic principles in them, but I'm going to read them and kind of give you both sides of it, right? So the first one I'm going to start with, yesterday we picketed over at the Church of Scientology. They had their event, which are basically yesterday replaying the event that happened up in Portland where they had the opening of the Portland Ideal Org. Now, why would they show that to people here in Los Angeles? Well, number one, they've got to constantly keep pitching that they're expanding when they're not. Number two, they got to get more money in. They're renovating, for people who know Scientology, ASHO and AO. Those are two big buildings at the complex, and they're now gutted. They told us yesterday. So somebody's got to pay for that, and it's not David Miscavige. So it's probably the public having to shell out more money. They had tables set up at this event. We got pictures of it before they quickly locked the doors so nobody could see. And, I told him, I said, what kind of church puts up these giant white fences around an event so nobody can see it? Their view was everyone does. I said, no, they don't. You can walk into any church. I've never seen a church where they have everything all blocked off so nobody can see it. It was very interesting to hear their views. Finally, the security guy said, well, we have to do it because of you critics. And I'm like, really? No. No. What? Because we have a few signs out there that maybe somebody might think about something else. I mean, that's pretty interesting itself. I would think people should be inside going, why do we have to do the curtain tech? Why do we have to block everything out? Are we really that wimpy that we're that weak in spirit that we can't see a sign that contradicts what we're being pitched? I mean, that's a little bit scary in itself, I would think. I know for me, when I was in and they were locking us in, and I knew it was Keith Henson outside because they had sent me outside to try to help him or to handle him and get rid of him. And then when they locked us in and said, oh, it's a mandatory briefing, nobody can leave at 6 o'clock. I knew it was because Keith was out there with his picket sign. One guy, one sign. Unbelievable. Okay, so Hubbard says in The Way to Happiness, the first one I'm going to start with is seek to live with the truth. Now, yesterday we talked to security guards and different Scientologists for a few hours, and they weren't applying this at all. Scientology, the truth is, they actually drill and bill you and mold you into being a chronic liar. And here's the line where it works. No one has the right to force data on you and command you to believe it or else. It is, if it's not true for you, it isn't true. Now for me, that actually helped me for a long time because there was a lot of stuff in Scientology that was not true for me, including me taking medicine for epilepsy and they trying to say I couldn't. And people would say, well, what reference are you using? And I would say, if it isn't true for you, it isn't true. And I'd say, you have grand mal seizures, and then come talk about not having medicine. It's a little different story when you've got to have the grand mal seizure. So they do build you into being kind of a chronic liar. But let's look at the first part of it. False data can cause one to make stupid mistakes. It can even block one from absorbing true data. One can solve the problems of existence only when he has true data. That's L. Ron Hubbard or whoever he took this from. But the point is, this is their book that they get out all over to non-Scientologists about what they believe. So if you, as an example, Tim Armour has heard my ex-husband's side of what happened. That's it. And I said it to him yesterday, and I wasn't going to mention you, Timmy, and I told you that until this guy came walking down the street and pushed me really hard. And luckily, Mark was there and caught me, or I would have been out in the street. It was really, really scary. And so, at that point, when Tim started laughing about it, I said, no, now I'm going to make a video about it. I definitely am, because it's not okay. That's assault. And I could have, if he hadn't caught me, I would have been out in the street and I don't know what would have happened. Same as in Ireland when they pushed me down the stairs. And luckily, John McGee caught me. Or I probably would have had a broken neck or dead. I don't know. It was really scary because that was a really steep set of stairs. And this guy came flying around the corner, shoved me down the stairs. It's just like, I'm a woman. Do you know what I mean? Tim is like 6'3" or 6'4". For them to do nothing and laugh about it is really pretty spooky. It is. It's like the other one that's right next to seek to live with the truth is set a good example. These two are right there. Set a good example and seek to live with the truth, right? That's a good example to let a woman be pushed nearly out into the street and Mark Baker luckily was there and caught me. If he hadn't, I would have been very, very injured. And then to have them laugh about it, that is not this is what Scientology does. It's not every Scientologist, but that's what those guys did yesterday. That's actually what happened. So it's like that is not the way to happiness. And Tim, I told you, once you started laughing about me saying, this guy almost pushed me out into the street, and you started laughing, I said, now I am going to make a video about it. And here I am. And I've said it since I was in Scientology, you create your own enemies. I wasn't going to make a video about this picket at all. But when that guy pushed me out in the street, I went, no, now I'm going to say something. Because you know what? That's abuse. And I know they have probably LAPD, a lot of them in their pocket, and it wouldn't have gone anywhere, and I didn't want to waste their time anyway. It wouldn't have happened. I know it. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, fine, you do it. But I'm going to let the world know this is your bullshit book that you try to get out to schools, to churches, to all these organizations saying, oh, we're for the way to happiness. Really? Well, this month, I'm going to do a whole series on the way to happiness and their different principles and which ones really do they apply and which ones don't, or how are they? Like seek to live with the truth. Scientologists are some of the biggest liars ever. And I was one of them. I really was. And here's the scary part. You don't know you're lying. That's the thing. It's serious delusion and mind control, where you really, at least for me, I really did believe whatever I was doing was the right thing. Now you remember the fair game. L. Ron Hubbard said you can lie, cheat, steal, destroy someone utterly. If they're against Scientology or L. Ron Hubbard. Now, I personally believe that was canceled because they wrote a cancellation on it. And I stood up in court even with Margaret Singer saying that's a lie. They don't do fair game. I really, really believed it until the day I went to escape out and they canceled my van. That was the first time me, Tori, went, oh my God, maybe what all these critics have been saying for years with me personally out in public with them telling me the stuff they do, maybe they do it. They do. They canceled my van to go to the airport. That was just the beginning of my escape story. If you haven't watched it, type it in the search area, escape, and watch. I made a 10-part series on it, just like I'm going to make this series on Way to Happiness, Scientology. But they do create chronic liars, and most of them inside don't even know they're lying, and they just block things out. And set a good example. Pushing a woman out into the street is a good example. That's one thing. I mean, Drew was there with us. And when Tim Armour said he didn't know anything about, Debbie Cook or the whole, Drew had it on his cell phone. And he went like this, here's Debbie Cook. And he played it. And Tim kind of looked at me and he went, here's the hole. And he showed him a picture. And he kind of looked at me and he said, here's the guard who was working at Gold. And David Miscavige was telling him to put up the steel bars on the hole. And Tim still was like, whatever. No, it isn't whatever. You're a big guy. And I told him that. You're a big guy. The least you should be doing, and many of you Scientologists, is going out there and getting those guys out of the hole. That's the least you should be doing. And I also told Tim I expected him, and I do, to handle this guy that pushed me out in the street. That is not okay, Scientology. Not okay at all. Anyway, so there you go. That's the beginning of my little series on the way to happiness. Seek to live with the truth. Really, if you can't learn both sides, false data can cause one to make stupid mistakes. It can even block one from absorbing true data. You can't know true data. Just like Tim only knows my husband's side, he'll never listen to my side. You can't know true data if you only know one side. That's just the way it is. You have to learn both sides. And I've said it for years. Don't listen to me. Go on the internet, read books, look at both sides, and then make up your own mind. But please make it up with honestly and truthfully looking at both sides, learning both sides. Find out why all of us left. There's a reason. Find it out. Be your own investigator. All right. And if you're thinking about joining, definitely do more investigation before you join. Many of us have spent years in there, finally escaped out. And yes, we're speaking about it. I wasn't going to, but they kept picking on me. And I finally went, I have free speech too. So there you go. I love you guys. Thank you for coming by.